Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Pop Culture Christ Cam. Did you miss me last week? I couldn't make it in front of the camera last week for various reasons. So that means I've got twice as much stuff to talk about this week. So what's been happening over the last 2 weeks? What are the things I've been looking at? First up is a new album that I discovered through Triple J's dig site, which is called Crucible. And that is a bunch of cover songs. It's a tribute album for hunters and collectors. Now, it's one of the tragic things for a music lover. I fell in love with hunters and collectors about 2 months after they broke up. I missed their final ever show. I mean, they've done comeback tours since, but I mean, right in 1997, I fell in love. I bought the live album from their final concert. Crucible is a great album. It's well worth checking out. There's Paul Kelly on there. There's Eddie Vedder. There's Something for Kate. It's a great album, well worth checking out. Next up, Jamé, I think that's how it's pronounced, Private School Girl, Chris Lilly's new show, bringing back his famous character. I watched the first episode, and I'm probably not going to watch the second. Chris Lilly is great. He's really good at making characters that you believe that it's not a middle-aged man, but a teenage schoolgirl. But there's nothing to like about this character, and there's not enough. There's some hints there that she's going to get a comeuppance, but who knows? I'm not going to stick around to find out. A lot of talent this guy has. I'm just not really interested in the character, so that's a no for me. Then yesterday I went to go see Thor: Dark World, and this, I mean, I'll probably say this after every Marvel movie, but this has been my favourite Marvel movie so far. Miles better than the first one. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars. It's not really a superhero movie, which is what I like. It's an epic fantasy movie with science thrown in. This is the kind of movie that I want to see more from comic book movies. I want to see more movies rather than just seeing Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces. I want to see taking the superheroes and telling new stories that we haven't seen 100 times before. If I see Spider-Man's origin story one more time, I'm just going to have to hit my head against the wall. So Thor: Dark World is a great movie, and it's one of those ones where people in the theatre stuck around for the mid-credit sequence, but my wife and I were the only ones left for the end credit sequence. Come on people, it's a Marvel movie. There's always something right at the end. So if you go see it, stick to the very end. The last thing I've been checking out is some digital comics. Neil Gaiman, who is one of the best writers in the world, not just of comic books, but full stop. If you're a Doctor Who fan, he's the guy who wrote The Doctor's Wife, which is a fan favourite episode. He's had some of his comic work back from the 1980s released on a comic app called Sequential. Here's what I want you to do. Go to Sequential, find it in the App Store or on the Play Store if you're on Android, download that app, and then look for Neil Gaiman's Lost Tales. Download that. For one thing, it's free. Second thing, for every copy downloaded, the Sequential will donate 50 cents to malaria research, which is a well-worthy cause. Third thing, I want you to check out Outrageous Tales from the Old Testament. It's something that Neil Gaiman did back in the 80s, where he takes stories from the Old Testament, specifically from Judges, there's a couple others, and tells them with this exaggerated perspective. It's great artwork, and it makes you really think, if this is in the Bible, what is going on? This is completely crazy. And it reminds me of when I picked up a Samson comic a number of years ago, and I showed it to a friend of mine who is a great Christian teacher. I said, check this out, tell me what you think. They said, great story, all about Samson, but it's missing the big picture of the Bible. It doesn't show us how Samson fits into God's big picture, and in the process misses the point. And I think that's what's happening here in Outrageous Tales from the Old Testament. He's taken things in isolation and showed them to be absurd. If you haven't read the story of the concubine at the end of Judges, you really do need to do that, but keep in mind it's pretty R-rated. The things in the Old Testament can be really bizarre, unless we look at it through a lens of God's big picture, saying how God has a plan for creation, starting with Adam and Eve in the garden, that sin came in and God had a plan to deal with it, that all leads up to Jesus. And if you look at Judges outside of that big picture, well, you're going to get some crazy stories. But when you look at it in that big picture, you see God's plan of redemption. That God's people continually reject Him, yet when they call out for help, God is there to rescue them. And we see the ultimate rescue mission in God's big plan when Jesus dies on the cross so that we can be saved. Guys, that's what I've got for Pop Culture Christ Cam this week. Make sure you subscribe so you know when the next video is coming out. If you have anything you want me to talk about the show, Tumblr, Twitter, on the Pop Culture Christ website, do all those things. I look forward to being back next week.